Hey everybody, in this video we're going to continue to talk about finding the domain of a fractional function involving radicals. So I made a previous video that went over one example, and in this video we're just going to go over a few more. So let's think logically about this function that we're given in order to find the domain. So this function, f of x equals 10 over square root of x minus 5. What do we know about the domain of radicals or the domain of fractional functions? Well, we know that this bottom square root of x minus 5, we know that cannot equal 0, right? But we also know, because of this radical, that x has to be greater than or equal to 0. So we already know x has to be greater than or equal to 0, but now we have this extra square root of x minus 5 as well. So let's add 5, let's see what we get. So we get x square root of x equals 5. Now we square both sides, and we get x equals 25. But we know x cannot equal 25, right? So even though x is greater than 0, we also know that x cannot be 25. So we're going to go from 0 to 25, and we're not going to include that 25. We're going to union that with 25 all the way to infinity, because infinity is greater than 0. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, so for this one, we have the square root. Everything's under the square root. So we know that everything under the square root has to be greater than or equal to 0, right? Okay, we also know that the denominator, x plus 6, cannot equal 0. So we subtract 6 from both sides. X cannot equal negative 6. Alright, but let's take a look at this one. Well, let's think logically about this one. Negative 1 is always going to be negative 1, right? I would need x plus 6 to be also negative in order for negative 1 over x plus 6 to be greater than or equal to 0. Because a negative divided by a negative is a positive, right? So x plus 6 less than 0, subtract 6 from both sides. X needs to be less than negative 6. Okay, so what is this interval notation? That's going to go from negative infinity, any negative number is less than negative 6, all the way up to negative 6, like this. Now, what does this have to do with this problem? Well, it would have to do more with the problem if this interval included negative 6, but it does not include negative 6, though that ends up being our overall answer, because negative 6 is not in this interval anyways, so we don't need to exclude it. So that is finding the domain of a fractional function involving radicals. A few more examples.